Hi, thank you very much for joining us into this new webinar, Infor EAM Improve Your Manufacturing Equipment Performance and Life. This webinar is around 25 minutes long, and please remember that you can use the chat or you have a question. One of our consultants can answer you using the chat, and also at the end, we'll have a raffle. Okay, let's start. But before we start, I need your help with a quick poll. So please use your mouse. I'm going to launch right now the poll. And as you can see on the screen, we have a question. Do you have preventive maintenance procedures for your assets? So you can select one using your mouse, yes, no, in development. I'm going to give you a few seconds to answer, clicking on directly on the screen with the mouse. Okay. Let's close the poll. Okay. Well, nobody answered right now the poll. These are the results. And okay, let's start the webinar with one of our consultants. We're going to see a demo of Infor EAM and how to reduce risk, cost, and to enhance capacity for growth, for example, how to drive it to decision making, and especially how to automate and streamline processes. So I hope you enjoy this webinar. Let's start.
All right, so let's dive on in here. I think you're gonna like this. This install of EAM is on Amazon Web Services. We, as a company, Digital Thinker, lease space from Amazon, and we put our apps and other stuff on Amazon Web Services. It's available through Infor as well. When you log in to EAM, here's what you see. I'm going to expand charts just so that you can see charts. Now this is called the Start Center. Some of us diehard old guys still call it home or home pages. It's really, Start Center is the correct terminology for it. I want you to notice over here on the left side of the screen we have inboxes. I'm pretty sure you guys are familiar with inboxes, but just in case, I want you to know that they can be color coded to give you an indication of if you're in good shape or you're getting into trouble or you're in trouble. My example would be PM work orders that are overdue. I have 4, and that is a condition that I'm not supposed to have. So when I log in and I see red icons over here or even orange ones, I know these are things that need my attention and need my attention rather quickly. So I can simply go hover over this inbox item, double click on it, and it will carry me to those 4 work orders that needs my attention. So here they are right here. This is giving me 5, probably because of some changes I've made to my environment lately, but this is how you get to those. Now, since these are overdue PMs, they were supposed to be done by the scheduled end date you see in this box right here. So I can do one of 2 things. I can change that date, push it out, or I can just complete the work order like I'm supposed to. My point is, these inboxes drive performance. You can have an inbox for anything. I have customers that has inboxes that says suppliers with no address. So they have supplier records and nobody has put the address in, so they can see how many records they have. Supplier records don't have addresses, and they can fix that. So there's a variety here on my screen, everywhere from logged on users, that's what a sysadmin person would like to know, and then open work orders, the my open work orders or work orders that I have created, and then I have work requests awaiting approval right here. And so I go through the statuses and I go through overdue work orders. And then as I get on down to the bottom of my screen, you can see I have requisitions awaiting approval. So EAM is configurable to where your users have spend limits. And if they create a requisition that is over and above their spend limits, they have to route it to somebody else. Simply change the default approver. If I was a default approver, I would be using this inbox here, requisitions awaiting my approval. And I would have a count in there and I could double click on it and I could do what I have to do. Now over here on the right side of the screen, we have charts. Honestly, I'm going to tell you that most of my users, and I have a lot of customers, that they don't care for the charts. The charts really don't do anything to get them excited, except they do like to look at the volume of work orders for the current year compared to the volume of work orders of the previous year. And they like to see, like, maybe in the winter they spike up on work orders because of weather, who knows. But they do kind of get off looking at this right here. Now, these donuts over here tell you where the work orders are coming from. So if I mouse over, this is the majority of my work orders for 2021 came out of the band mill, and then some for safety, planter mill, and then a bark debarking area. Most of my users simply take this chart section, they shrink it, and then they hit the save button right here to keep it out of their view. Now, I want you to notice KPIs, key performance indicators. This is really the way you measure your performance, and you can have a KPI to measure just about anything. The ones that I have on my screen for demonstration purposes are rather simple. Labor hours reported this month. So every time a month begins, we're in the red because nobody has really started posting labor. And as they start posting labor on work orders, this will change colors until they reach their mark and they get green. So these ranges, you can adjust these ranges to make the color codes work for you. Also, some of my customers keep up with downtime hours. And so this KPI says downtime hours for the past 30 days. The big difference between a KPI and an inbox is a KPI has a image or number or something like that to make it a little appealing. Also, you can maintain the history. In other words, you every night at like 1 o'clock in the morning, EAM will take a snapshot of what these values are, and you can use that data for analysis purposes. One of the purposes that one of my larger customers just looks at is inventory value. So they have KPIs that shows them the current inventory value of what their inventory is. And since they have maintain history enabled, they can look back and see what inventory was at any day, any time over the past. They like that a lot. Now, here are two measuring tools that are pretty much standard across everybody. The emergency work percentage. The objective of every company is to get their emergency work down below 20% of all the work they do. That you're considered golden if you reach that goal to where breakdowns only occur 20% of the time. Now, right to the right of that KPI was proactive maintenance hours. These are the hours that are spent on planned work versus unplanned or breakdown work. And you can see I'm in the yellow right here. I'm not doing too bad. Once again, these KPIs can measure anything you want to help drive performance in a particular direction. For you guys that are about to upgrade to 11.6, something you don't have are these favorites on the bottom of the screen. You see I have several different screens down here that I decided as a user which ones I wanted deposited down there based on my frequency of using them. So if I click on the one that says work orders, it quickly takes me to the work order screen. But let me show you why this is so cool and why so many people like it. Is if I go ahead and hit insert record, and I'm starting to create a work order, and my boss calls me and says, hey, will you go look at PO and tell me what's been received, whatever, he wants me to do something right now. So I can just come over here to my menu and I can move over to purchase orders and I can hunt and find whatever it is he wants me to find. Not only that, I could create a record if I wanted to. I could do anything that I wanted to. But watch this. When I go back to my work order favorite menu down here on the bottom of the screen, it remembers where I was and what I was doing. So I didn't have to finish creating this work order and hit save before I left the screen. I could just simply leave the screen and then come back to it when I'm ready to finish it. I'm not going to create this work order, so I'm just going to reset my screen. Now, while we're on a work order screen like we are right now, in order to put something down here on the bottom of the screen, you simply right mouse click, and right here is grayed out, but it says add to screen cache. And that's what you train your users to do so that they can give them some quick access menus on the bottom of the screen. Now this is controlled at the user level. I mean, if you've got users that you don't want them doing that, you could prevent them from doing that at the user level. But it's kind of a neat feature, so we leave it there. Now, here is a work order screen, and what I wanted you to see are these colored squares over here on the left side. The one that you see to the far left, the one that's gray, actually the color is called graphite, is chosen to be the color to represent PM work orders. So in this configuration, we set PM to be a priority because it's not exactly in the priority hierarchy that we have, like emergency, urgent, routine. PMs are kind of in a world all of their own. So that graphite color tells me that these work orders are preventive maintenance. Now the color green is based on what status the work order is. So as you change statuses, you can change the color of the icon. And these are just quick visual indicators, tells the planner quickly what he's got in his basket, what he's working with. Now, when we look down here at this chipper lube, it's red. And when you look at the actual record, the priority is required at first opportunity. So that's a hot potato right down there, along with the one training PM schedules, it is also. So that's what I wanted you to see here. I'm going to go take us right back to the Start Center and pause. Does anybody have any questions so far? All right, let's continue. We're going to have some more fun. This time, I'm going to take my mouse pointer and go to the menu Work, and I'm going to go down to Work Orders. When I do that, I'm not using my little favorites thing, so it's giving me whatever my data spy is set to default to is what it's giving me. Now, what I want you to notice, you don't have this in your current version of EAM. If you want to change this data spy right here, you have to go to what is called List View, and then you can change your data spy to whatever you want to. In version 11.6, and I think this might have come out in 11.4, is you have another search box on the left side of the screen that you can hit the drop down and change the data spy. So you don't have to keep flipping from split view or record view to list view to change your data spy. You can do it on the fly right here while you're in split view, looking at the work order screen. And for those that are on the call that aren't familiar with this view right here, this icon right here represents split view. And what it means is we're looking at part of the screen in record view, that's where this blue is, and then the other part of the screen is a list. And so whatever list comes up when we invoke this data spy, all open work orders, they're listed right here. All right, now some people like to expand this and get a better look at it. That really doesn't do a whole lot for me unless I want to see more of the description. then it comes in handy. Now, something I wanted you to see that is brand new, well, I shouldn't say brand new, rather new in EAM. This work order that you're looking at is a follow-up from a preventive maintenance work order. And let me show you how that happened. If you click over here on this work order, this is a preventive maintenance work order. You see I have a PM code right here. Just in case you didn't know what all these blue dots are, they are hyperlinks that will take you to that screen that the record is associated with quickly. So those are hyperlinks. Now that I'm looking at this preventive maintenance work order, there is a tab on the work order screen called checklist. And ever since 2012, Infor has just been going like gangbusters to improve the mobile app and to improve checklists in EAM. So when you click on checklists, you'll see right here that it's prompting the user to do certain things. Did you check the fluid levels, yes or no? The user says yes. What was the fluid level? 5 quarts. Are the bearings greased? Yes. In this case, this user said the gauge is broke. So he checked follow-up, and that's where this follow-up work order came from over here. That's what was generated. So that is the cool thing about checklists inside of EAM. Now what I want to take you over to show you is I want to take a look at equipment. And from the equipment screen, I've looked at your Infor EAM, and it's put together pretty well. I wouldn't say it's terrible. It's in pretty good shape. Somebody has put some thought into the configuration and the setup of what they did. Well, when you're looking at equipment records like I am, there is a structure tab that will show you all of the child records that fall up underneath this parent. So in this case, what you're looking at actually is a sawmill in South Carolina. The equipment record is just simply number 1 for log processing, and then we just keep going down the list. Notice they sequentially applied numbers to identify certain production lines. Now, here's where having a hierarchy really pays off. You can click on the events tab right here. If you're a maintenance manager, if you're a maintenance planner, or even a maintenance supervisor, this might be worth looking at when you're getting close to the end of your shift, or actually when you're starting your shift, to see what went on before you got there. So when you click on events, what I want you to notice is there is equipment numbers in here, and they're not all the same. So what this events tab is bringing me is every work order ever created for every piece of equipment underneath that hierarchy. That's quite a bit. So if you hit this little counter right here, 126 work orders with various pieces of equipment that are up underneath that production line called log processing. And then this tells me everything I need to know about those work orders. If I wanted to, I could double click on any one of these and hyperlink over to the actual work order itself and see the details of that work order. Now, it gets better. Over here, we have a cost tab, and this shows me maintenance costs of every work order underneath the entire hierarchy. So all of these work orders in here can have costs, and that cost will be totaled up into 2 buckets, and that is material costs, labor costs, 3 buckets actually, tool costs. Not many people of my customers care about tool costs. They care about tool usage, but not cost. So this will give you a total maintenance cost of everything that went on underneath this system record right here. Now, you don't necessarily have to start at the top. You can look at any one of these areas right here, select it, and you can go to you can go to that actual selection. And when you do, it flips you over there. And then when I look at events on this record, I'm seeing the events below this record, the cut up rig. These are work orders that were created on child records up underneath this cut up rig. And then I can look at the cost specifically for the equipment underneath that hierarchy. There's not a lot right here. All right, so that is the equipment, and that is systems is what I wanted to show you. Now here's the thing that your planners, your people might just get excited about. I don't know about you, but I was very excited when I found this. When you're looking at any equipment record, it can be a system, it can be a project, excuse me, a position, it can be an asset, it can even be a location. While you're looking at that equipment record, you can simply right mouse click and you can choose to change the equipment number. I'm sure some of you have fat fingered an equipment record when you set it up and you've done all kinds of things to it, and then when you want to get rid of it or change it, you can't. You had to mark it out of service or change the status to withdrawn and then forget about it. Now you can simply change the equipment number here, and all the history and everything that has happened goes with it under a new number. Customers like that quite a bit. It's pretty popular. Now what I want to show you, and this is the parts girl ought to get excited about this. When we go over our menu to materials and we go and we look at parts, you're going to see a little bit of a difference right here from what you're used to looking at. What I want you to notice is this part description field used to be 80 characters. Now it's 255 characters, because I know parts people. Parts people like to get all the details and information they can on one screen or one box to help them find it. Well, now you have 255 characters here, but not only that, you have another box for long description. This holds 4,000 characters that you can add to further describe the part. Now that's pretty powerful, but what's really powerful is both of those fields, the part description and the long description, are searchable fields. So when you go looking at EAM on the list view and you have your multi-search fields enabled, you can just simply type something in this box and search on it and find it. Now over here in the long description, it's the same thing. Now remember I told you the description has 255 characters now, and the long description has 4,000. So you can put a lot of detail on your part descriptions, plural, descriptions now, and you can find those with a simple query. It's pretty popular. Now, on the part side itself, when we're talking about part functionality like reorder from low stock or min max, those kinds of things, there hasn't been a lot of changes to that. It still works just the same way it's working for you right now. So you won't see anything other than these size of these fields getting pretty big. There's one last thing I want to share with you though, is if I turn on my screen designer and just take a look in the user group that I'm in, I want you to see what we have under the hood. There is a field right here for profile picture, and I do have planners and warehouse people that take pictures of parts and attach them to the part record, and that's what's available here. Down on the bottom of the screen, there is two user-defined note fields. All right, this is the same as a comment field, but it's on the record view of your part screen, and you can put it in your list and make it searchable. So really, if the 255 character description field isn't enough for you, and the long description of 4,000 characters isn't enough for you, you have these two note fields you could put on your screen, and I do believe those guys hold 32,000 characters. So you can write a book if you wanted to. I'm just now seeing customers roll these out and use these fields right here. Now, one thing, since you brought it up, Johnny, I almost brushed over and didn't mention it. On the Stores tab is where you set up what label you want to print from EAM for your parts. All right. Looks like I haven't enabled my screen designer on this right here. Stand with me long enough while I do that. I want to show you. This is pretty important. So what I've seen is people that's doing the part receiving, when they go to that screen, the transactions PO receipt screen, they have the capability of entering the quantity of labels they want to print and then hitting the button to print those labels. And I've seen this happen in action. I was just totally impressed. That receiver guy is a busy guy. And so he has a cart full of parts, and he puts the receiver along with the labels on the parts for the warehouse people to stock. And so this is where you set all of that up. All right, that's about all I wanted you to see right there. Now, I wanted to share with you one of the big things about EAM that Infor has been investing a lot in. If you go to your menu work, and I know planners know all about this, and you go to work order planning, you can come down to task plans. Now, in your version of EAM, it's probably just plain old tasks. There is a difference between the task screen and the task plan screen. And Infor threw some goodies on there that affect the functionality that can help you or hurt you depending upon what you do. But what I wanted you to see on this screen right here are task plans. And what you guys probably already know is that when you have a task plan, typically the instructions are put here in a text box, and those print with the work order, and your guys are supposed to go down the list right here and do that stuff. Well, what they've done now is they've added active checklists right here. All right, now before we get into the checklist, let me explain to you what's going over here on the right side of the screen. A while ago, when I showed you a work order that said follow up from a PM, this is the work order description you put on this task plan for any time that maintenance guide creates a follow-up work order. So you can decide what description, what work order type, class, status, and priority for follow-up work orders. Now let's take a look in the weeds here, and let's go take a look at the checklist. Checklists are very robust compared to what they used to be just a few years ago. What happened was Infor figured out that they could use checklists to get maintenance techs to capture meter readings, to control their work, actually, a way of verifying that they actually did what they were supposed to do. So when you look at this checklist right here, the first one, there is a type that you choose. What type of a checklist item is this? And there's probably about 9 different types you can choose. Some are measuring, like meter readings, some are quantitative, some are qualitative, yes, no. There's a bunch of different options available, but what is cool is you can check this, select yes for required entry, and that maintenance technician cannot close the work order until they address each and every checklist item on their checklist. Now the equipment level here is header equipment. If you had a PM that had a route, you would want to change that to include the route and the equipment, or just the route. In any case, this is where you do it. Also, you can put a color code on each and every checklist item. You can point out which ones are higher urgency than others. There's a lot you can do with this right here. What I wanted to show you though is if I were going to add a checklist item, I wanted you to see all the different selections that were available. You can say, okay, maintenance guy, tell me if it's good or if it's poor. This is an inspection. If you choose inspection, then you have other values that you need to put in there for the guy to select from. And if he selects a value that falls outside of the threshold, then he'll be prompted to create a follow-up work order. And so we have meter readings, non-conformity checks, measurements, okay adjusted. There's a lot of stuff in here that makes that appealing. So that was a quick overview of EAM and the features that you'll see when you upgrade to 11.6.
Well, fantastic webinar. Before we finish and we make the raffle, I need your help with the final poll. So remember, don't be shy. Use the mouse directly on the screen. There's one question, so I need your help, please. The most critical assets in your organization, do you have a plan to support safe and efficient business operations? So we have 4 options. Choose the one that you think, which one do you identify for your company? Okay, so let's close the poll, and then we're going to share the results. Okay, wow, 100%. I have identified and I have a plan. Okay, so thank you very much for joining us to this webinar. We are going to make a raffle. Right now we're using a solution called Name Picker. So we have all the attendees here, and what we have today is a bag from Infor. So let's start the raffle, and good luck. Okay, Pamela, we will contact you via email, and we'll send you the access to get this back. So anyway, thank you very much for joining us into this webinar, and see you soon and next session. Thank you very much.